Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Sample Mining, a podcast that, like the crate digging producers of hip hop, will mine for the greatest examples of sampling in music history. Gems only. I'm your host, Rob Bailey. After introducing the chip samples concept of highlighting a series of samples on a surface level in last week's episode, today we're going to get back to focusing on a single sample and the story behind it. As I alluded to last week, this week's episode will be centered around hip hop beef and diss tracks. Let's not waste any time and go ahead and jump straight into the sample. The sampling song samples a few different elements or sections of the original song, so we're going to play a few clips this time around. Let's start with the portion that opens the sampling track.
Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on!
And here's the section of the song that plays through the verses of the sampling song.
5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now.
Lastly, we'll play a similar section that also brings in the guitar portion that's used in the sampling track.
The old get old and the young get stronger.
So, after hearing 3 different sections of the song, were you able to identify the song that samples it? That would be none other than Jay-Z's 2001 track, Takeover, from his all-time classic album, The Blueprint. The track was produced by up-and-coming producer Kanye West and samples 5 to 1 by The Doors. Did you get it from the first clip, or maybe the second or third? Or did you not get this one? Let us know how you did in the comments on Instagram and in the episode poll. Alright, now let's play each of the sampled elements and where they show up in Takeover back to back. Here's 5 to 1 again.
Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on!
And here's the opening of Takeover, which samples that part.
Come on!
ROC, we running this rap shit. Memphis Bleak, we running this rap shit.
Now, here's that driving bass line from The Doors.
5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now.
And here's where that's used in Takeover.
Bring knife to fist fight, kill your drama. We kill you motherfucking ants with a sledgehammer. Don't let me do it to you, Dunny, cause I overdo it. So you won't confuse it with just rap music.
Lastly, here's where the guitar branches off from the bass in 5 to 1.
The old get old and the young get stronger.
And here's where that comes in on Takeover.
Don't let them gas you like Jigger is ass and won't clap you. Trust me on this one, I'll detach you. Mind from spirit, body from soul. They have to hold a mask, put your body in a hole.
If you don't know the backstory of this song, it caught the hip-hop world off guard, took it by storm, and ignited one of the most famous hip-hop beefs of all time. But before we get into this case, let's take a step back and take a look at the history of diss tracks and beef in hip-hop and in music at large. Time to dig in. Let's mine! Rap beef and diss tracks have been an integral part of hip-hop culture since its inception and continue to be today. In the early stages of MCing, rap battles were the best way to show off and sharpen your skills. It's how the great MCs began to separate themselves from everyone else on their block and in their city and try to gain recognition and ultimately land a record deal. Though diss tracks are synonymous with hip-hop at this point, they actually predate hip-hop and were found in music from different genres first. Some of the most notable examples started to pop up in the 60s. Reggae legend Lee Scratch Perry's tracks Run for Cover and People Funny Boy were aimed at former collaborators he thought had done him wrong. The Beatles' breakup was infamously messy, and Paul McCartney and John Lennon both took shots at each other in their solo tracks Too Many People and How Do You Sleep, respectively. The opening track to Queen's album A Night at the Opera, titled Death on Two Legs, Dedicated To, is also considered to be a diss track aimed at a former manager of the band. However, the earliest notable example, and one that is often considered a precursor to hip-hop music, was released by none other than Muhammad Ali before he changed his name from Cassius Clay. Ali released a comedy album in 1963, 6 months prior to him winning the World Heavyweight Championship publicly announcing his conversion to Islam and changing his name to Muhammad Ali. This album put his spoken word and poetry skills on full display, and even earned him a Grammy nomination for Best Comedy Performance. The most famous track, and the one that most closely aligns with hip-hop and diss tracks, was titled Round 5, Will the Real Sonny Liston Please Fall Down? In it, he recites one of his most famous poems, which took shots at his upcoming opponent and current heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston. In this poem, he details how he's going to defeat Liston and literally knock him out of the ring and into outer space. Let's listen to a few clips from the track now.
I am the greatest. Mr. Liston is an old man. He's 30 years old. He has no business being in the same ring with me. I'd like to help that poor old man. I want to give him lessons, boxing lessons, talking lessons. I'll teach him anything. But since he's gonna fight me, what he needs most is falling lessons. Here's the 8th round of the Clay Liston fight, exactly as it will happen. Clay comes out to meet Liston, and Liston starts to retreat. But if he goes back an inch farther, he'll end up in a ringside seat. Clay swings with his left. Clay swings with his right. Look at young Cassius carry the fight. Now Clay lands a right. What a beautiful swing. The punch raises Liston clear out of the ring. Liston still rising, and the ref wears a frown, for he can't start counting till Sonny comes down. Now Liston disappears from view. The crowd is getting frantic, but our radar stations have picked him up. He's somewhere over the Atlantic. Who would have thought when they came to the fight that they witnessed the launching of a human satellite?
At this point in time, Ali was a 21-year-old up-and-coming boxer who had impressed many in the boxing world, but hadn't yet achieved anywhere near the recognition that he would later in his career. He used this comedy album as a way to gain more notoriety, and also to take shots at his upcoming opponent and start to play mind games with him. This isn't unlike the path many hip-hop artists have taken to launch their careers. Whether through battle rapping, beef, or diss tracks, many rappers have used the same tactic, as it's a great way to catch the attention of new fans and rivals alike. One of the earliest and most notable rap battles took place in New York City in 1981 at the Harlem World Christmas celebration. Busy Bee Starsky, who was famous for his ability to work the crowd and get everyone amped, took the stage and took some shots at Kool Moe Dee. Kool Moe Dee, who was in the crowd, jumped on stage and absolutely destroyed Busy Bee in one of the most renowned diss verses in hip-hop history. Here are some clips from Kool Moe Dee's response.
My man Busy Bee Starsky, how many people think Busy Bee Starsky rocked the house? I hear that in the place to be, yeah. But if y'all notice it or not, I heard a lot of shit, Busy Bee's popping shit, saying he'll take out any MC and all that. I give it to the man, he know how to rock the crowd, but when it come to having rhymes, no way he can fuck around, and I'm gonna prove that right now. Hold on, Busy Bee, I don't mean to be bold, but put that all bullshit on hold. We gonna get right down to the nitty-gritty. Gonna tell you a little something why you ain't shit. And I remember Busy from the olden times when my man Tony G used to tell you rhymes. Remember that rhyme called Diddy Bar Diddy? Man, goddamn, that shit was a pity. Too hot to trot, hit to rock a spot. Spoonie G rock it whether you like it or not. He begged for the rhyme, asked for it twice. He said, Spoonie G, I'll buy it any price. When Spoonie finally sold it, oh, what a relief. Busy Bee stole it like a fucking thief.
1985 brought another famous instance of New York City rap beef. This time between the Boogie Down Production or BDP crew from the South Bronx and Marley Marl and Mr. Magic's Juice crew from Queensbridge. BDP members believed that Marley Marl and MC Shan's track, The Bridge, was claiming the birth of hip-hop to be in Queens. In response, KRS-One and BDP released a track titled South Bronx, making it known hip-hop was born in the Bronx. MC Shan then released Kill That Noise, directed at BDP. Let's listen to some lines from that track now.
So if you think about dissing me, better think twice. Cause next time, brother, won't be so nice. You can come all alone and bring all your boys. But if you knew what I knew, then you'd kill that noise. Kill that noise. Kill that noise. Kill that noise. I started with the smash, I'ma leave with the bang. And to put it to your belly, MCs can't hang. Your boys and your family will be grieving your death. Weeping while they're sweeping up the pieces I left. You can come all alone and bring all your boys. Yo, Shan, I didn't hear you say hip-hop started in the bridge in your record.
I didn't. They wanted to get on the bandwagon.
BDP put an end to the feud, releasing the devastating track The Bridge Is Over shortly after. Here are a few clips from that one.
The bridge is over, the bridge is over. Bye-bye. The bridge is over, the bridge is over. Hey, hey, the bridge is over, the bridge is over. Bye-bye. The bridge is over, the bridge is over. Manhattan keeps on making it, Brooklyn keeps on taking it, Bronx keeps creating it, and Queens keeps on faking it. Boogie Down production coming 3 different flavors. Pick and dick for the favor that you savor. Mr. Magic might wish to come and try to save ya, but instead of helping you out, he want the same thing I gave ya. I finally figured it out, a magic mouth is used for sucking. Roxanne Shante is only good for steady fucking. MC Shannon Molly Mall is really only bluffing.
Probably the most notable feud was during the 90s with the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. This one involved so many artists, but Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. were the most prominent figures for each side. This was a long-lived feud that went far beyond just music and the rappers involved. Cities banded together. It was an NYC versus LA rivalry, and even grew bigger than that. Interestingly enough, Biggie and Pac were actually close friends, with Pac being a mentor to Biggie as he was making his way in the rap game. That all changed when Tupac was shot 5 times in the lobby of Quad Studios in New York in November of 1994. He blamed B.I.G. for this, and things only escalated from there. As I'm sure you know, this story doesn't have a happy ending, with the beef resulting in the shooting deaths of both Tupac in 1996 and Biggie 6 months later in 1997. Despite that fact, this feud produced 2 of my favorite diss tracks. The first was Who Shot Ya from Biggie. Big doesn't mention Pac by name, and denied the song was about him, stating that he wrote it before Tupac was shot. But it's kind of hard to deny considering it was released just a few months after the shooting. Here are some clips from Who Shot Ya.
Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the opsa. Leap hard to creep them Brooklyn streets. It's on, nigga. Fuck all that bickering beef. I can hear sweat trickling down your cheek. Your heartbeat sound like Sasquatch feet. Thundering, shaking the concrete. One false move, get Swiss cheesed up. Clip detect, respect, I demand it. Slip and break the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not fuck with North Sea Papa. Feel 1,000 deaths when I drop ya.
Tupac didn't respond right away, but in the summer of 1996, released a track aimed at Biggie, Puffy, and Bad Boy Records titled Hit 'Em Up. He took a different approach with far less tact, and called each of them out by name, letting the world know who it was aimed at. Here are some clips from Hit 'Em Up.
We bust on bad boys, niggas fuck for life. Plus Puffy tryna see me weak, hearts I rip. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some mark ass bitches. Grab your blocks when you see Tupac. Call the cops when you see Tupac. Who shot me? But your pumps didn't finish. Now you're about to feel the wrath of a menace. Nigga, I hit 'em up. Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house? Now it's all about Versace. You copy my style. 5 shots couldn't drop me. I took it and smelled. Now I'm about to set the record straight. With my AK.
Things were quiet for a little while after this, but that changed in the summer of 2001. At the time, Hot 97 was the nation's premier hip-hop radio station and often drove the trends of the culture and genre. Every summer, they host a hip-hop festival called Summer Jam, which typically features the biggest acts in hip-hop. During his set at Summer Jam in 2001, Jay-Z debuted a new track titled Takeover. The first verse of the track speaks in generalities, asserting his greatness and putting down any potential challengers. But with the second verse, things started to heat up. Jay-Z directed his attack on Prodigy of Mobb Deep. He even put dance photos of Prodigy in a leotard as a child up on the screen behind him while dropping the line, "When I was pushing weight back in '88, you was a ballerina, I got the pictures, I seen ya," which sent the crowd into a frenzy. And then, he took it to an unexpected level, and ended the second verse with the line, "You guys don't want it with Hove. Ask Nas, he don't want it with Hove. No!" This line set the stage for the third verse, which is entirely aimed at and decimates Nas. Here are some clips of the lines aimed at Nas. First, he trashes him and claims that Nas had the worst verse on his own track, Uchiwali.
Fell from top 10 to not mention at all. To your bodyguards, Uchiwali's verse better than yours. Matter of fact, you had the worst flow on the whole fucking song.
Then, he takes aim at Nas's street cred.
You ain't live it, you witnessed it from your folks' pad. You scribbled in your notepad and created your life. I showed you your first tech on tour with Large Professor. Then I heard your album about your tech on the dress.
On Jay-Z's track Dead Presidents 2 from his debut album Reasonable Doubt, he samples a line from Nas's track, The World Is Yours, off of his debut album, Illmatic. Jay-Z uses the line, I'm out for dead presidents to represent me, in the chorus of his track. He references this in Takeover as well.
So yeah, I sampled your voice, you was using it wrong. You made it a hot line, I made it a hot song.
Lastly, he takes a shot at Nas's career, saying he hasn't released a good album since his critically acclaimed debut, Illmatic.
Said you been in this 10, I've been in it 5. Smarten up, Nas. 4 albums in 10 years, nigga. I could divide, that's one every, let's say 2. 2 of them shits was due. One was the other was Illmatic. That's a one hot album every 10-year average.
Nas and Jay had taken some subtle jabs at each other starting back in '96, but with his performance of Takeover at Summer Jam, Jay went all in and made this rivalry very public. Jay-Z's classic album, The Blueprint, was released on September 11, 2001, and the Takeover was included on the track list. The album is widely regarded as one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time, and is notably the album that 2 up-and-coming producers made a name for themselves on, Kanye West and Just Blaze. At this point, Kanye was still trying to break onto the scene both as a producer and a rapper. After producing Takeover, Izzo, Heart of the City, and Never Change from The Blueprint, Kanye quickly became one of the most sought-after producers in hip-hop, and a few years later would finally release his debut album as a rapper. Just Blaze produced Girls, 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 You Don't Know, and Song Cry, which launched him to the forefront of hip-hop producers at the time as well. The Blueprint was incredibly successful and received widespread critical acclaim. Despite its release coinciding with the 9/11 attacks, it sold over 427,000 copies in its first week, and was Jay's 4th consecutive album to reach #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. It has been certified double platinum and continues to be lauded today. It was ranked the #1 album of the 2000s by Complex Magazine, and number 50 on the revised 2020 Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list. Jay kept his hot streak going, and a couple months after the release of The Blueprint, on November 18th, recorded his MTV Unplugged episode with The Roots as his backing band. Strategically driving the knife in a little deeper, when Jay played Takeover during the set, he had The Roots play the instrumentals of some of Nas's songs while he rapped his verse dissing him. Here are some clips of Jay rapping about Nas over his own instrumentals. First, he plays Uchiwali while calling out Nas's verse on that track.
Nasty Nas, the S goes trash, had a spunk when you started, but now you're just garbage. Fell from top 10 to not mention at all. To your body got Uchiwali's verse better than yours. Matter of fact, you had the worst flow on the whole entire song.
Here's Uchiwali from Nas for comparison.
O is for Uchi. Oh, you ain't know how many O's in the bankroll? Sorta like the game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? But my name ain't Regis.
Then, he has The Roots play New York State of Mind while he's aiming at his street cred.
It's only so long, fake thugs to pretend, homie. You ain't living, you witnessed it from your folks' pad. You scribbled in your notepad, created your life. I showed you your first tech on tour with Nas Professor. Then I heard your album about your tech on the dresser.
And here's Nas's New York State of Mind.
The Mac up, told brothers back up, the Mac spit. Lab was hitting niggas, one ran, I made a backflip. Heard a few chicks scream, my arm shook, couldn't look. Gave another squeeze, heard it click, yo, my shit is stuck.
Despite being recorded on November 18th, Jay elected to wait until December 18th to release the album. This is notable because it was one last shot taken at Nas, as Nas's new album Stillmatic was set to be released that same day. And speaking of Nas's album, what was the second track on Stillmatic? None other than Ether, Nas's response to Jay-Z's Takeover. Ether was released a couple weeks before Stillmatic, on December 4th, which also happens to be Jay-Z's birthday. Nas wasn't going to sit back and take the disrespect from Jay-Z. He came with a ferocious attack on Jay and added a little spice to it by giving it to him as a birthday gift. Ether was equally brutal and tears into Jay-Z throughout the track. Here are some notable lines from Ether. First, he calls out the fact that Boogie Down Productions and KRS-One already released an album titled Ghetto Music, The Blueprint of Hip Hop.
This for Dolo and his manuscript just sounds stupid when KRS already made an album called Blueprint. First, Biggie's your man, then you got the nerve to say that you better than Big.
Then, he blasts his choice of a name for his record label, Rockefeller.
Rockefeller died of AIDS, that was the end of his chapter. And that's the guy y'all chose to name your company after? Put it together. I rock hoes, y'all rock fellas.
Lastly, He calls Jay out for stealing Biggie's rhymes and wanting to be on all of Nas's hit tracks.
How much of Biggie's rhymes is gonna come out your fat lips? Wanted to be on every last one of my classics.
As opposed to sampling other songs like Takeover did, Ether uses an original beat with a few notable samples and interpolations. The first of which is a sample of Tupac's song Fuck Friends, where he says, "Fuck Jay-Z." Lost in the other more prominent beefs in hip-hop is the fact that Tupac and Jay-Z had a small bout because Jay appeared on Biggie's '96 track Brooklyn's Finest. The beef ended there, though, as Jay didn't release his response out of respect after Tupac was murdered. Nas opens Ether with that Pac sample and gunshots. Here's that opening.
Fuck Jay-Z.
What's up, niggas? Hey, yo, I know you ain't talking about me, dog. You? What?
Fuck Jay-Z.
Beyond that, Nas elects only to interpolate 3 of Jay-Z's own songs, all from the blueprint to make it hit that much harder. The first example of that is in the chorus of the song, which comes in at the 17-second mark. He interpolates Jay-Z's song You Don't Know, playing off of Jay stating, "I will not lose." Here's the chorus of Ether.
Fuck with your soul like ether. Teach you the king, you know you. Godson across the belly. I prove you lost already.
Here's where Jay-Z says, "I will not lose," and You Don't Know.
Will not lose ever. Fucker.
Next, he interpolates Jay-Z's song Girls, Girls, Girls while making fun of Jay's looks.
What you think you getting girls now cause of your looks? Negro, please. You know mustache having with whiskers like a rat compared to beans you whack.
And here's a clip of the chorus of Girls, Girls, Girls.
I love girls, 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 girls I do adore.
Yo, put your number on this paper, cause I would love to date you. Holla at you when I come on talk. I love girls, 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 girls.
Lastly, Nas interpolates Takeover by making a play on the line, ROC, we're running this rap shit, saying, ROC, get gunned up and clapped quick, in the same cadence. Have a listen.
ROC, get gunned up and clap quick. JJ Evans, get gunned up and clap quick. Your whole damn record label gunned up and clap quick.
Here's that part of Takeover.
ROC, we running this rap shit. Memphis Bleak, we running this rap shit.
Needless to say, Ether was absolute fire. So much so that the song spawned the verb ether, which is used as a slang expression meaning to ruthlessly humiliate an opponent. But Jay-Z couldn't just leave it at that, and made sure that he had the last word, releasing Super Ugly shortly after. With Super Ugly, most agreed that Jay took things way too far, detailing his sexual encounters with Nas's girlfriend at the time, Carmen Bryan. So much so that his mom, Gloria Carter, actually called into Hot 97 and said that Jay-Z should apologize to Nas and his family. Shortly after, Jay called into Hot 97 and apologized, saying he crossed the line and he wasn't thinking about how he could have offended female listeners, including his own mom. In the aftermath of the diss tracks being released, the hip-hop world couldn't stop talking about the feud, the artists, and who won. Hot 97 leaned into the feud, playing Ether and Super Ugly back-to-back on air. They would take calls and have people weigh in on who they thought won, and even took a poll asking listeners who won. 58% of those who called into Hot 97 said they preferred Ether to Super Ugly. So the public was pretty split at the time, and even today when rappers and others discuss the feud, you'll get a mix of answers as to who they think had the better track. For me personally, Takeover and Ether are my 2 favorite diss tracks, and it only adds to the allure that they came from the same beef. These 2 rap legends brought the best out of one another, with the result being 2 of the most memorable and ruthless tracks in hip-hop history. Many people argue this beef was just what Nas needed to reignite his fire and love for the game. Honestly, Jay-Z kind of had a point when he said Nas had a one hot album every 10-year average. Illmatic is widely considered one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time, and is my personal favorite. But Nas didn't approach that level again on his next few albums, and many saw his 1999 album Nostradamus as being a low point in his career. Upon the release of Takeover, many fans thought this could be the end of Nas's career. His recent output wasn't his best, and Jay-Z completely shredded him. Little did everyone know that the opposite would be true. Nas would see a newfound spark ignited within him and return to form, not just with Ether, but with his 2001 album Stillmatic as well. After the release of Super Ugly, Jay and Nas took a couple more subtle shots at each other in later songs, but for the most part the feud cooled. And in 2005, the two artists poured water on the fire and squashed their beef altogether by performing on stage during Jay-Z's I Declare War tour. The two performed Jay's hit Dead Presidents and the Nas song it samples, The World Is Yours. Then, Jay declared the beef was over, stating, "All that beef shit is done. We had our fun. Let's get this money." Taking things a step further, 1 year later in 2006, Nas signed to Def Jam Recordings, which Jay-Z was president of at the time. His first album released on Def Jam, Hip Hop Is Dead, included the track Black Republicans, featuring Jay-Z. I guess they really leaned into what Jay said when they ended their feud at his show, and came together to get that money. Though the Jay-Z and Nas beef came to an end, that didn't put an end to beef and diss tracks in hip-hop. 50 Cent is renowned for starting beef as a way to elevate his status, including spats with Ja Rule, The Game, and Cam'ron, among others. Some other notable feuds include Drake's beef with Meek Mill, Pusha T, and of course, the massive feud earlier this year with Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne and Birdman, Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, and many, many others. Beef and diss tracks will forever be linked and an integral part of hip-hop, but I'm convinced we won't see a feud on the level of Jay-Z and Nas again. I know Drake and Kendrick have probably approached that same level, but let's let that one settle a bit before we start analyzing its place in history. The sample found in Takeover is tremendous. Couple that with the ferocious bars from Jay, and you have a diss track that's hard to top. Nas took a more personal approach on Ether, with the only samples and interpolations being Tupac taking shots at Jay-Z and using Jay's own songs against him. This requires a different level of intelligence and skill, and again, adds up to another ruthless diss track that's close to untoppable. This feud between two hip-hop legends produced exactly what you would expect. Two legendary diss tracks that will live on forever in hip-hop. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed this sample and the story behind the beef of Jay-Z and Nas as much as I did. As always, if you'd like to explore the samples discussed in this episode further, check out the Sample Mining playlist on Spotify or Apple Music. If you have any suggested songs you want to hear us cover on the show, reach out via social media. Sample Mining is written, recorded, edited, and run by me, and every bit helps. So if you enjoy the show, please spread the word and follow us on your favorite podcast platform and on social media. Next week, we'll have a special guest join the show and bring their own sample to discuss. So be sure to join us as we go mining for more gem samples in music.